Save time with Notion's recurring tasks workflow. Have you ever wished that every time you tick off a recurring task, a perfectly scheduled clone of that task appears before you can even blink? By the end of this video, this will be your new reality. You will tick one and Notion will handle the duplicating, the scheduling and the tracking. And the good thing is, it's not luck, it's a repeatable system anyone can do, and the good thing is, on any plan, even on the free plan. And to create this workflow, I did what most people aren't willing to do. I broke my databases multiple times and tried for multiple hours until every property snapped into place. And now I only have to click a button and everything gets taken care of, and I save so much time. And to show you how you can do this, I broke down this video into 6 segments. So 6 different levels that build on each other. So level 2 will build on level 1, level 3 will build on level 2, and obviously level 1, and so on. And the good thing is, when you say level 3 is enough for me, I don't need more, or the rest is too confusing, you can quit. But I will definitely make sure to stay until the bonus tip, because there I will reveal how you can automatically see where you performed this task in the past. And on top, I will also give you an insight on how this system really works, because there is a twist, but more to that at the end of the video. And now, for those who don't know me, my name is Leon and I'm excited to guide you through this. So let's get started. The flow of the video is the following. We have something on the left in a toggle. We have, for example, level 1 in a toggle on the left, and we have it on the right, but here we need to do the work to rebuild this. So now, in order to recreate this, we need to add a checkbox property and call it done, and a date property. Where is it? Here. And just call it date, and then we can select this to today, July 1st. So now we recreated this. We have cleaned the carpet, washed the clothes and dust the furniture all over here. We have a done checkbox and a date. The only thing we need to sort is for date descending, but in that case it's unnecessary because we only have entries with the same date. But the thing with level 1 is, and that's because it's very basic, is when you click on done, nothing happens. No new instance gets created, nothing. And that's because we lack 2 features, either the property button or automations. One is enough. And in this video, because automation is a paid feature, I will do it for you only with buttons. And that's it for level 1. Let's move on to level number 2. And one more thing for the levels. Everything that we already built in the first level, I will automatically have prepared for the next level. So we don't need to create the done checkbox again or the date. We already did this there, so we start with the level 1 as the default. So what we need to add here is a button property. I will call it done 2, or for level done 3, done 3, just for the sake of it. You can also rename this to only done. But first, let's start with the interval property. It's a number property, and let's set this to 1 for every entry. And now we are able, when we create this button, to schedule it to the next day, because we not have an option for example, days, weeks or so. That will come in a later level. We only have the, let's rename this, interval. We have only the interval, and that is days. Of course, if you say 7 days, you have a week, but this is very basic, the basic version with interval. And the second property we need to add is a button. You will find this down here, and let's call it done 2 to have it the exact name. And then we need to add it the automation that the button is performing. This button is editing this page and it sets the date to the next day, but only if this task is a recurring task. So a recurring task means that the interval is bigger or 1. So if you don't select an interval, it's no recurring task. If you set an interval and it's equal to 1 or bigger, it's a recurring task. So we check. I won't go into depth. I will just explain this very broad. We say if the page where the button is in, where the interval is bigger or 1, we want to access the date property for that page, and we want to add in days the number of the interval. So for example, for this page, we want to add to July 1st 1 and then day. Otherwise, only select the same day, because we can't put empty strings in here. We just paste in the exact same date if the interval is 0, because then when we click done, the task will disappear. When the task is a recurring task, so here I can show you, we can also do it the other way around. We want to say if the interval is smaller than 1, so it's no recurring task, then set the checkbox to checked. So true is checked and false is unchecked. Otherwise, if it's a recurring task, please set it to false, so unchecked, and this is what the button is doing. So now let me show you what this looks like. Let's, for example, say this is not a recurring task. If I click on done, the task will disappear and be set to done. You can see this in the database for level 2. Clean the carpet got set to done. If I do this for a recurring task, you will see it won't get checked, or it will get checked and quickly set to not checked, and you will see it on July 2nd. So we could also filter this to only show entries for today, but here you can see it jumped to July 2nd, and if we also perform this on July 2nd, it will move on to July 3rd and so on. Now we can recreate this. What you can do is you can just copy this from here to here and select edit property, and then first select the date and then select done. Then you can paste custom formula, and then you can paste this formula in here. And what you need to do is you need to delete all the properties and then re-add them, and also for date and for interval and for date, and then you will see the red text will disappear. You can click on save, and you can also do this for done. You can copy this and you can click on custom formula, you can paste it here, and you need to re-enter interval, click on save, and then let's also set this to 0, so this is no recurring task. Click on done, it will get checked, and if it's a recurring task, it will be set to July 2nd, and as you can also see, when I say skip 2 days, it will move on to July 4th. And that's it for level 2. But now what we are missing is when we click on done. Yes, the date will be changed to the new date, but there is no new instance. So when we click this button, we edit the same page. There is no, we click this button and a new page gets created. That's something that is still missing. So that's it for level number 2. Let's move on to level number 3. In level number 3, as you can see, I already prepared properties, name, done, interval, and date. The only property is the button property. I didn't add this because this button is different to the button we had before. As you can see, this formula is not the same. So what we need to do is we need to add this option property. So let's add a select property. Let's click on edit property, click on add option, and let's add day, week, month, and year. And let's, for the sake of it, make everything gray. And then let's rebuild this. So here we need to move it over here. And for the first one, you want to select day, then week, and then month. So now everything looks the same. And then we need to also add a button. Let's call it done 3. Move it over here. And then let's take a look at the automation. So everything is almost the same. We also, by the way, I haven't talked about this. This here means that we want to access the properties of the page that the button is in. So we always need to write this. If we want to change something in this page or we want to access this property, if we click this button here, we need to write this page dot and then the property. We can't just write, let me show you this. I will delete this for now. If I just write interval, Notion doesn't show me the interval property. I need to write this page dot and then I can select interval. And same as before, we only want to do this for recurring tasks. And then what is new here is we have this page dot interval for the interval of the recurring task, and we don't have days, we have option. So now we are not limited to days. We can also select week, month, and year. And as before, if this isn't a recurring task, we just set this to this page dot date. In this formula, everything stays the same. So let's do the lazy way that is the most convenient also for you is let's copy this over here. We want to edit the date property and the done property, then select custom formula, paste it in here, re-add all the properties, then click on save. Here I need to rename this to option, and let's also copy this over here to over here, re-add this, click on save, and now let's duplicate this and let's call this clean the carpet 1 and clean the carpet 2. Let's say these are 2 different tasks, and let's say this is not a recurring task because that's the carpet of your living room. And when we click on done, this gets checked because it's not a recurring task, and this should get pushed to July 2nd. Yes, that's also right. It's a recurring task. It appears on July 2nd. This should now change to July 8th, and that is also the case. Wash the clothes, and this should get pushed to August 1st, and that's also the case. And we can also see if this works over here. Let's call this carpet 1 again and carpet 2 again. Let's set the interval to 0 and it gets checked. This gets pushed to July 2nd. So we have this on July 2nd. This gets pushed to July 8th. That's also correct. And this gets pushed to August 1st. So it works the exact same way. But what we still lack is now we are not limited to only days. We have day, week, month, and year, but we still have no new instance. But for this level, that's it. Let's move on to level number 4. Now here in level 4, there is also a next date formula property. So we not only have the date property, the interval and the option, and then we need to calculate what is the next date, we automatically see to what date this will get pushed. This will, because it's 1 month, be August 1st. That's because it's 1 day, July 2nd, and this because it's 1 week, July 8th. Now let's recreate this. First, we need to add a formula property called next date, and let me show you what this looks like. What this says is if the interval is 1 or more, so we check if this is a recurring task. Once again, we want to display the date. So we say the date we are in, date add is for adding something to a date. We set the interval and the option. So we add 1 and the option, for example, is week. We add 1 week to our date. And then, very important, with this new date, we need to put this into this special format. So an epsilon, a minus, 2 m's, a minus, and 2 d's to be able to put this in this parse date property. And what this parse date property is doing is it will not only show you this as a text, but really as a date property other automations or buttons can work with. So as you can see here, returns the date parsed according to the ISO 8601 standard. And otherwise, so if this is not a recurring task, the next date will show the date that this task is due to, because it's not a recurring task. So what we can do is we can copy this once again over here, and when you don't have this page dot interval, it usually works, so I don't have to re-enter all the properties. So we can click on save, and also here we can see day, 1 day, month, 1 month, week, 1 week. Now we also need to add once again a button property. Let's call it done for. Let's also shrink this in size. Let's also shrink this in size so we can see everything. And what this button looks like is for the date, we just set it to this page dot next date. It's as easy as that. All the formula is in here. So, and because we also used this parse date formula, we can just set it to this page point dot next date. And for done, it's still the same. So we can just copy this to this button property, select edit property. For date, we just write this page dot next date. We are done. And for done, we just paste the formula, re-add the interval property, and we are done. So let's once again duplicate this. Let's call this clean the carpet 1, clean the carpet 2, select the interval to 0. So date is July 1st. Next date is July 1st. You can also delete the option here. And now if I click on done, it gets checked and disappears. If I now click on done for the recurring task, it should switch to July 8th, and this should also update. And that's the case. Now this is July 15th and this is July 8th. I can also do this for this task. So this switches to July 2nd and July 3rd, and this moves to August 1st and here September 1st. And if we now do this on the other side, I will not duplicate it here. I did it here twice and here. So now, as you can see, if I click on done, this will change to July 2nd, July 3rd. This will also switch to July 8th and July 15th. And this will switch to August 1st and September 1st. And this is the case. So we successfully recreated this and we are done. So now, in comparison to the level before, we have this next date property, so we can see what is the next date. So we don't need to calculate this in our head, but still, as the level before also like this, we still have no new instance. That is something we will finally fix in level number 5. So let's move on to level number 5. So here in level number 5, we don't add another property except from the button. We can now add and drag over here and rename it to done 5. And let's see what this button is doing. This button looks a bit different than before, but I will tell you exactly what this button is doing. So now if we click this button, we will add a new page. So we don't edit the page anymore, we add a new page. And what we do is we set the name to the page where the button is triggered and set it to this name. So if we click the done button for clean the carpet, we add a page to the tasks database, and because this page's name is clean the carpet, the new name is clean the carpet. Then the interval for this page is 1. And because we select this page dot interval here, the interval gets filled with 1. Same for option, it gets set to this page dot option. So in this case, option gets set to day, the date gets set to the same date, and the done property gets checked. But there is also a second action in this button which edits this page, and what it is doing is it sets the done checkbox to unchecked and changes the date property to this page dot next date. So we create a new copy, fill it with the property values of the page, set it to done, and then we edit this page here and set it to unchecked and move the date to the next date. And this is what the button is doing. And now we can recreate this. We can open this button and we can click on plus new action. Then we can say add page 2, then select task level 5 build, then click on edit as a formula. Here select this page dot name, click on save, then select the interval and set it to this page dot interval, then select the option, select custom formula, set it to this page dot option, the date to this page dot date, and the done property to checked. Now let's edit this page, and what we want to do is we want to edit properties. We want to set the done property to unchecked, and we want to set the date property to not page edit, because this is the page we added here. We want to add the date to the next date that gets displayed for the current page we are editing. So we want to select this page dot and then next date. Click on save, and now we have the exact same button. And now, as you can see, when I click this button for the task clean the carpet, it looks like in level 4. So we have July 2nd and the next date is July 3rd. So we have the task and now it's July 2nd and July 3rd. But what happened is, if I go in task level 5, we have 2 clean the carpet tasks. We have one that is still on July 1st and it is set to done. And we have the one I showed you a second ago, which is to July 2nd, and the next date is July 3rd. Now let me also show you this in here. If I say now we have July 2nd and I click this, you can see we have a third instance. We have July 1st, July 2nd, and the new one that is set to July 3rd. And that's the magic in level 5. Let me also show you this only over here. So if I click on done in clean the carp, it should look the exact same way. And that's the case. So the date is July 1st. It's set to done. And we have July 2nd here and July 3rd here. And as you can see, because we filtered that done is unchecked, we can only see the ones that we want to see. And now there is one thing left that is part of the bonus section, and that is now, of course, we can go into the original database and go into here and see when we did this task. But if you have tens or maybe hundreds of entries here, it's very hard. And if you have more than 3 different recurring tasks, it's hard to see. And in the bonus level, I will show you how you can see for every task separately when you performed this in the past. So let's move on to the bonus level. So here in the bonus level, it looks as if they are the same, but they are not, but you can't see it because there is a new relation that says previous iterations and there is a completion date. And now we also want to add this to the right side here. Let's first create a date property and call it completion date. And let's also create a relation to the tasks level bonus build database and call it previous iterations, and only select a one-way relation. So not 2 ways, because then we will have two relation properties, only one way. And we want to have no limit because that doesn't make sense if we do this task more than once. And this is probably the way. Now click on add relation, drag this under here, and we added all the needed properties. Now what I want you to do is, because you can see here we have no icon and here we have icons. That's because we have a recurring task database template over here. Let's also create this for this database. Let's first select this arrow counter clockwise icon and call it recurring task. And there was something in the body. There was also a database. We have a list view that is filtered to previous iterations, contains, and then this title. So we also want to add this over here. We want to add a list view for an existing database, then select the task level bonus build. Let's hide the database title. Only the name and the completion date should be visible, and we want to filter this to previous iteration, contains, and then recurring task. So now we are almost done. In here we want to hide these 2 properties because we don't need to see them here, and we need to once again add a button property, call it done bonus, and let's see what this button is doing. So everything looks roughly the same. Name, interval, option, date, and done are the same. What we also do is for the completion date. The completion date is to the date triggered. You can also do time if the time when you did this task is relevant. I do it for date. And what this is doing is the completion date is set to the date when you click the button. And that's a very smart way to do it automatically. Then in here in this page, We also have done gets set to unchecked, and the date is set to this page dot next date. But we also want to access to manipulate the previous iteration, so the self-referencing relation. And what we want to do is we want to add the page added, because what we do is we add a new page. The page that we trigger the button in gets pushed to the next date, and we add this page where we take the date from this page to be added to previous iterations. Sounds very complicated, but I will show you now what this looks like, not in theory, but actually when you do it. So let's first build out this button. So first click on add page to, select task level bonus and then build. Set the name to this page dot name and so on. And then I skipped this, so because we already did this in level 5, select the completion date and set it to date triggered. And now let's click on edit property, click on edit property, select done and click on and select unchecked. For the date, select custom formula, this page dot and then next date. And for previous iterations, now you have different options. We don't want to replace this, because then if we, for example, have a page in there, we say replace, we only switch them and then we can't see the full history. Then we could remove a page, so that's also not what we want to do. We could toggle it, or what we want to do, we want to add, and then we want to add the page that we added on top of here. So we don't want to edit. So we don't want to add this page, because then the page where the button gets triggered gets linked to itself, and that doesn't make sense. So we want to select page edit, and then we can click on save. And now let me show you what this looks like. First, select the template for every task over here. What this looks like is, if I now click on done for this task, clean the carpet, it gets pushed to July 2nd and July 3rd. And in here I can see, okay, I performed this on July 1st. And if I click on done again, let's say today is July 2nd, and I also perform this, I can select it too. And now we have the date on July 3rd and the next date on July 4th. And I can see, oh, I performed this on July 1st and on July 2nd. And that's a very smart way to directly see when you performed this task, and you will only see this task and its instances in here. And now let me tell you how this all works. Maybe some of you figured this out. What we do is we never set this instance to done. What we do is we create a new version of that, check this, and then add it to previous iterations and move this task to the next day. So we don't check this, we create a duplication, we set this to done, and we also add it to previous iterations. And that's how this all works. And if you're now curious and want to learn more about buttons, because these buttons you can create on the pages are even more powerful and also offer you different use cases that can also save you a lot of time, check out this video. Stay consistent. See you next.